Hey there, my name is Shukla, and I'd like to say namaste and welcome to Financial Chakras podcast, Abundance Through Alignment. And today we are going to be I have a guest here who is a certified financial planner, and she is not only that, but she's a coach now, is a money coach. And we are going to be really diving into today about money mindset because many times people come into life, and we all have life, and when we are going through life, what happens is we don't know sometimes how our money mindset is affecting our, whether it's cash flow if you're a business owner, or income if you are working at a job, or savings or debt. How does that affect you internally? And that's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about how do you take all that and turn it into confidence. So let's get started today, and help me welcome Teresa. Hi Teresa, how are you?
Good, Ash. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
I'm so
My
glad that
friend,
you invited me here.
I'm glad that you're here. I really appreciate you. Okay.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Teresa. I want to figure out. Okay, first of all, where are you from?
I am from the greater Boston area in Massachusetts in the United States.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So tell me one great thing about Boston.
Let's see. Great seafood if you like seafood.
Great seafood. Okay, great. Do you have any options for vegetarians over there?
Oh, absolutely. It's a melting pot for culture.
Oh,
So
it
we
is.
have restaurants that would cover everything. I don't think there's a culture that isn't represented.
Yes, I totally understand that. So thank you so much for that, right? So let's talk a little bit about your background, right? So you are a financial planner still?
Yes.
You are, okay. So tell me a little bit about your journey and financial planning, and let's go from there first.
Okay, great. Well, I've been in financial services for over 40 years. And over the years, my skills developed and I kind of morphed into different areas and landed on financial planning. And then I decided to get certified as a certified financial planner. And one thing I discovered, Ash, was that the industry at the time was using the process of financial planning to primarily sell insurance. The financial planning concept was really created by insurance companies, and they were using this tool in order to sell insurance. So you'd write a financial plan for somebody, and it seemed like everybody always needed life insurance. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with life insurance. But I felt very strongly that they had this great tool and they weren't using it properly, or they were really missing the mark. So over the years, I created my own process that I call wealth coaching. And what wealth coaching is it's a combination of success strategies and financial planning. So I can help a person figure out what it is they want from life and figure out the resources, the financial resources that they are going to need in order to create the lifestyle that they desire.
Wow, I did not know that. How interesting that is, right? So financial CFP was created by insurance carriers.
Well, the
I
financial planning process was created by insurance carriers, and then somebody came up with the idea of getting us certified.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Really, that's an interesting fact. I
Hmm.
love that. So thank you for that, right?
You're welcome.
So what makes a CFP different than somebody who is a some sort of series licenses or life insurance licenses?
Totally different. So, a certified financial planner, first of all, a lot of people in the industry will use just throw around titles and they'll call themselves a financial advisor or a financial planner or, they'll anything. But a certified financial planning is very distinctive. So, in order to be able to hold yourself out as a certified financial planner, you have to go through a course curriculum. It At the time when I did it, it was 6 modules, 6 different courses. I think it might be 7 today. But you go through those courses, you have to pass each one of those courses, and then you have to take a comprehensive exam. When I took my exam, it was 2.5 days. I know the exam has changed some, But at the time when I did it, I had to go through that process plus do the comprehensive exam. If you didn't pass the comprehensive exam, you couldn't call yourself a certified financial planner. That was the certification process. And then in order to maintain the designation or the certification, you have to maintain continuing education. So we have to get 30 continuing education credits every 2 years. And we have to have a minimum of 2 credits in ethics.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for that, right?
You're welcome.
Yeah. So when it comes to the financial planning, let's talk about when you talk about people's money, obviously
Mhm.
it is a very sensitive topic. And
Sure is.
many times people have a hard time wrapping their mind and hearts around it, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk about the number one reason why people and what type of mindset that they have. Let's start there first, and then we'll
Mhm.
go into the reasons. Okay. So what
Okay,
type of
sure.
mindset most people have?
Well, it really depends on how they were raised and what kind of environment they were in. But for most people that I've run into, there seems to be a lot of negativity around money. And that negativity is, people think, oh, if I think about money, it means I'm greedy, or it means wealthy people are greedy, wealthy people are bad. You hear terms like filthy rich. Nobody wants to be filthy, right? You hear terms that are very derogatory when it comes to money, but the truth is, Ash, money is just an energy. It's just a tool.
Yes.
And if we give it more personality than that, that's when we can get into trouble. That's when the mindset piece becomes problematic.
I love that. So thank you so much for that. So when it comes to the money, right? And let's say the money is somebody's treating money in a certain way, and what are some of the most common ways people are treating money, and why they're getting in trouble all the time?
Well, one of the things that I've seen frequently is that they treat it like a weapon. So, especially in relationships, there may be one member of the couple that holds a lot of power around money, and they use it almost like a manipulation for, against the other person. Or they, hide things, or, they're not completely transparent about how they're spending or how they're saving. What I've seen in particular in couples is you've got 2 people and they're coming from 2 families, all right? So
Hmm.
you're not taking one person A, leaving their family, their background, what they grew up with. They come into this relationship, person B does the same thing. So both of them have these 2 backgrounds that could be entirely different. Maybe one of the members of the couple, maybe their parents suffered a lot of financial hardship, and maybe the other member of the couple had a lot of financial affluence. So they had a lot of money, so they didn't have the money worries that the other person has, and they tend to carry that baggage with them. And one way to mitigate that is communication and just, having a conversation around money. If you have a hard time talking about money, then it makes it very difficult to kind of suss out the energy that you're giving to it. And if you can just look at money as a tool, just like, you have a hammer or you have a broom or whatever, those are all just tools and they just serve a purpose. Look at money the same way, that it's serving a certain purpose, and be very grateful, show gratitude for what you have, because that way you get more of it.
I love that. So what you're saying is when it's a couple situation,
Mhm.
one person, and from a translation point of view, from a chakras point of view, one person comes from a place of uncertainty, insecurity, fear, and anxiety,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And when that person is coming from that, it's called root chakra. So when they
Yep.
comes from that space, they're having they're not they have not adopted the second phase of that particular chakra, the positive things about certainty and comfort and so forth.
Mhm. And security.
And
Yes,
is that correct?
that's correct.
So then If they have not adopted that, it causes a problem basically. And now the second spouse might be very flamboyant, maybe very outgoing, and they're coming from their third chakra, and they want to just go, they want to be feel important, so they want to spend money, and they want to just, basically, like throw away money essentially, right? And so, and that's where the conflict begins. Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, when you have two people who are coming from a different direction and have completely differing views around how money should be handled, it does create conflict. And the
Right.
best way to mitigate the conflict is communication.
Yes. And so one person comes from a more conservation point of view,
Yep.
from when it comes to root chakra being imbalanced, and or root chakra just completely like shrinked to a degree where most people cannot even imagine, right? To almost a state of depression to some
Hmm.
degree, because they are always thinking about. So I have somebody that I know, and they're doing this thing, and they were going to spend literally, Teresa, like, $1,000 on something. It's a
Hmm.
marketing expense for business, and they're so like focused on the whole thing about, they want to, like, they're so focused on, like, they want to get that money because they're doing XYZ, and they want to get some sort of promotion going, right?
Yeah.
And they're so focused on that, they're forgetting this, there's a whole business out there that they could make thousands from, and they're trying to constantly look at this $1,000, right?
Hmm.
So is that what you find? So is that what you find typically, like, is that how people behave?
Well, I wouldn't say anything was really typical, Ash, because everybody is different. But I do find that when one member of a couple, or any person, they don't even have to be part of a couple, if they come from a background of lack, then they tend to have that situation where the root chakra is really clogged. It's really confined. And in order to help them release that, it really takes work. And that's where money coaching comes in, is to help them understand that that might have been somebody else's reality. That doesn't mean it's your reality.
I see. Okay.
So, and of the flip of that, the reverse of that is you could have a person who came from a household where they had plenty of money, or they might not have really had plenty of money, but maybe they had parents who acted like they had plenty of money. So, usually, kids aren't really privy to what their parents' financial situation is. They kind of guess based on the parents' behavior. So,
Mm.
if the parents were, very free flowing, like they just spent money like crazy, they didn't even give it a thought, they grew up with that, and then they may have that habit as well. But if you would indulge me, I would love to share an example of something that I saw growing up in my family, that is why I'm so passionate about money mindset.
Yeah, please do share what is the main reason.
Well, growing up, my paternal grandmother was the kind of a person that was like a wizard when it came to money. She could squeeze a quarter till George Washington cried, but she was the most generous person you'd ever want to meet. She would do anything for anyone. And the reason for that is that she felt confident that she was always going to be able, between her and my grandfather, that they would be able to create more than enough with ease. That was her belief. That was her mentality. Now, she and my grandfather came from abject poverty. They lived in Sicily, and they left Sicily because there was no opportunity. And my grandmother felt very strongly that if they wanted to have at least a shot at life, they needed to come to America. And they did. And that was part of why she had so much confidence, because they were, we're in America. We have plenty of opportunity. There's no reason for us to be poor. But they had to work very hard, both of them. I mean, nothing was handed to them. They really struggled. But because my grandmother was so good at handling money, they always had everything that they needed. And even through the Great Depression, we got here right before the Great Depression in the 20s. They my father said growing up, they never worried about having food on the table. It was never a concern. Now, the reason that I mentioned that is my grandparents had 4 children. All 4 lived under the same roof. They were all exposed to the same things. 3 of her children, her sons, they all went into the exact same industry. So income-wise, probably all made about the same amount of money, roughly, and even their family sizes, everything was very much the same. However, growing up, I mean, as adults, now married with children, etc., all in their own households, their results were all completely different than what they saw growing up with my grandmother, except for one son. One of her sons mirrored her management style of how to handle finances, and he is now going to be 95 years old next month and still living very well. I mean, health-wise, a few issues, but financially, he's in great shape, and he's 95.
Mm.
He's not worried about running out of money because he handled it so well. He made some smart decisions, where his brothers didn't. And both of them died without any money. And the reason for that was their behavior. They both had a completely different mindset around money. One of them, no matter how much money he made, it was never enough. And he would spend money like he was the all-you-can-eat buffet, the glutton at the all-you-can-eat buffet. Nothing was ever enough. The other one was always looking for shortcuts. He was always looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. So here they were all raised by the same people, having a great role model, but they made different decisions, and those decisions were because of their mindset, and that mindset drove their results. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
I love the story. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
And that's amazing, right? So, when it comes to the mindset of money is concerned, what are some of the steps that somebody can take to really get to the next level?
Well, one step is if you really want to change, you don't like the results you have, you've just made a decision, you've kind of put the flag in the sand and you said, I've got to do things differently. One of the things you need to do differently is really take a good hard look at how you interpret money. What is your attitude towards money? Think about the way you were raised. Think about the examples that you, the examples that you grew up around, and ask yourself, is that true? So,
Mm.
for example, if you had a parent who was that flashy spender, and now you come to find out that they were spending more money than they had, your question to yourself is, let's say it was dad. Dad was a flashy spender. He acted like he had more money than he actually did. Was he telling the truth around money? He wasn't. He was basically lying because he was pretending he had more than he had. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you have a parent who is extremely frugal to the point of being ridiculous. And there again, same thing. Was that the truth? If you can say, no, that wasn't the truth, now you can ask yourself, well, how can I handle this differently? What do my finances tell me? What can I do that I'm not doing right now? If you're overspending, you need to start saving. If you're overly frugal, overly conservative, you worry too much about it, you need to take your foot off the brakes. Doesn't mean you have to do it all at once. There are exercises that you can do in order to kind of build that money muscle.
Mm.
But most of
I,
it starts up here.
I see. I love that. I love that. So, in terms of like, money mindset is concerned, and as people are talking, thinking about this subject matter, right? How much does it play a role when they just can't get into action because their mindset is not correct, or they are just in action all the time and they're not even thinking?
Well, that's when your limiting beliefs, your subconscious is really taking over. And that means that you are going to need to really work on that. If you seriously want something different, if you want a different result, then you have to think and act differently because your thoughts trigger your behavior triggers your results. If you want different results, you have to think differently, and then you have to act differently. Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting the same thing. It's like the old joke, if you think, um, now I forgot what the joke was. Oh, it'll come back to me. Sorry about that. Oh, I know.
Yeah,
If you keep doing things the same way and expect a different result, that's a definition of crazy.
it is definition of crazy, right? Absolutely definition of crazy. So when it comes to the a lot of families as they're going through some situations, I'm sure some of the situations are very scary.
Yep.
Um, the the times when somebody is in a really bad spot, right? How do they get out of that? Using some of the formulas you're talking about. What steps they can take? They can take.
Well, let's just say they're in a bad spot because they keep telling themselves that they live paycheck to paycheck. That's a very common thing.
Yep.
You talk to someone, they say, I can't save any money. I live paycheck to paycheck. Well, the more you keep telling yourself that, that becomes your reality. So, what do you have to do differently? Give yourself a different story. The way that you do that is demonstrating that you don't live paycheck to paycheck. So, for example, Ash, for a person who lives paycheck to paycheck, well, I'm going to use round numbers. Let's say they get paid, and at the end of the week they take home $1,000, and then by the day before payday, all their money is gone. Okay, that's paycheck to paycheck. They have to wait for that next paycheck in order to have any money. If they make a habit of saving some money, and the number doesn't matter, it could even be $10. If they have, the first thing they do is put $10 in a savings account, they go through the week, at the end of the week, they have $10 because they're training themselves not to live paycheck to paycheck. Now, I know $10 is not a lot of money, but it's the habit. It's getting in the habit of the first thing you do is take some of your money and save it. Now, when you do that, you show gratitude for it. And one way I like to recommend is by using this mantra, which is, I am so happy and grateful now that I save money with ease and grace.
Mm,
So I am are very powerful words. And
yes.
then to follow it, so happy and grateful, or even grateful if you didn't want to put in the happy, but you want to show appreciation, you want to show joy and gratitude. And then now that I am, so everything is positive and everything is in the present tense. I am saving money because you're saving $10. It's money. No one said it had to be $1,000. You're saving money with ease and grace. The more you do that, again, you're creating different pathways in the brain. You're changing the reticular activation system. You're changing your subconscious limiting beliefs. But that's exercise. That's your money muscle that you're building. And you keep doing that. And then before you know it, you're going to have $100 in the bank. Then it will be $1,000. And you say, wow, that wasn't so hard.
Mm, I love that. So thank you so much for the mantra. I really appreciate that.
You're
So
welcome. And that can be used for anything, Ash. So that first part of it, I am so happy and grateful now that I am, and then you fill in the blank.
yeah, and it's so important because you're really coming from a place of like the solar plexus chakra and third chakra. You really are, those of you who don't know what chakras are. So these are seven energy centers in your body, and that's what we're talking about. And one energy center, each energy center have different emotions, and then third one is they all reside at the spine. But if you look at your belly button and you pierce an arrow through it on the other side on the spine is when the third chakra is. So when we're talking about, like somebody says to you, you have a fire in your belly, or you are wanting to feel very, very important. So, those siblings, those people who really want to spend money all the time, what they're really saying to the universe is that I want to feel important. Can you pay attention to me? And that's why
Mhm.
they're going out on spending spree of buying cars or buying jewelry or buying something because they want to feel important. But more importantly, they're displaying their insecurity in many ways.
Right.
So instead of like, if you're a husband and wife, it might be a good idea to take a look at that closely. More
Hmm.
importantly, to adopting this new mantra that Teresa just talked about, it is very, very important, because that'll get you into action and get you to the next step that you really need to get to. So
Right.
Teresa, like, as they are moving on to their life and going to the next step of their life, as they are listening to this podcast, what are some of the things they can do once they start accumulating some money?
Well, I believe that until you have a significant amount of money saved, just keeping it in a cash, in the bank, someplace very safe. You can do CDs, to look for a better interest rate. But at this point, when you're first starting out, the most important thing that money can do for you is to help you build that money muscle and help you change your subconscious limiting beliefs. That's the most important task for that money. The second most important task is it's an emergency fund. So as you grow and as you get into this, and now you're building this habit and you're thinking differently and things are going along nicely, there are three buckets that I always recommend. The first bucket is the emergency fund. The second bucket is 5 year spending, like something that you're going to need to do within the next 5 years. Maybe it's replace a car, replace a roof, you want to buy a house, whatever that is. It's something that you want to build savings for that event that's going to take place in the next 5 years. And then the third bucket is your long term. So that would be like retirement. Retirement money can be invested because you're not going to be using it for a while. When you do invest your money, you want to be sure that the level of risk that you're taking aligns with your tolerance for risk. So this is not a time to show off. This isn't a time to listen to the guy that sits next to you at work and what he's doing or she's doing. It doesn't matter. You've got to think about what's best for you. And the reason I say that is because if you are investing in a way that is not in alignment, it's not congruent with what you tolerate for risk, whenever the market gets a little shaky, which it does all the time, you're going to pull out of the market at the wrong time and you're going to lose money.
Mm, mm. I love that. So thank you so much for that. So after they're done, they need to create three different buckets,
Yes.
basically, and
Mhm.
to really get them like, once they are off the chain, like, really working and moving towards their goals,
Yep.
they need to think about paying off debts, but more importantly, creating three different buckets so they can truly create a secure financial future.
Correct. That's when you're
Correct?
building wealth. And the first bucket that I love is you have to have an emergency fund, because when somebody doesn't, for example, I was talking to a woman the other day. She called me. She was referring somebody to me, and this was an elderly person who was coming into about $100,000 because of an insurance settlement. So she's going to have this $100,000, and she said, "How should she invest it?" And I said, "Well, how old is she?" She's 87. I said, "Has she ever invested before?" "No, because she's never had any money." I said, "This is not the time. Put her in a CD, put her in a high interest savings account, and don't worry about investing, because it's not appropriate for somebody at that stage."
Mm,
So things you have to think about are like, what stage of life are you in, and is it appropriate for you to be investing?
wow.
When you're building that's now, the reason that I brought her up is she was somebody who she didn't have any other money. She's living on Social Security. She has to pay rent. And right now she doesn't have enough cash flow to pay her bills. She's about $2,000 a month shy of what she needs. So I said to the woman, if she invested that money, she's going to be drawing on it immediately. That's a problem.
Mm,
So she's much better off. That's her emergency fund. That's the money that she's going to need for, whatever time she has left. She could take some of it and put it in a longer term CD, but as long as she has money available that she has to draw on, she's going to need that. And the woman I was talking, she goes, "I never would have thought of that." because my instinct is, oh, you don't want the money to not be working for you, you want to invest it. That's not always the case. The job that money is doing is giving that woman security.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for your rule of thumb with an emergency fund, you want to have about 6 months worth of expenditures. So, whatever you spend on average per month, let's say your living expenses are $5,000 a month, multiply that by 6, that's $30,000. You want to have $30,000 available in an emergency fund.
Mm.
That way, if you run over a nail and you have to replace a tire, or things happen in life, you're not freaking out. That's what the emergency fund is for. Then from there, you're building your other buckets for your 5-year needs and your long-term needs, like your retirement. But having that structure is going to give you stability. That stability is going to give you confidence. That confidence is going to give you peace of mind. And that peace of mind is going to alleviate the stress that most people feel around money. And that's where the
Wow.
ease and grace comes in.
Wow. I love this conversation, by the way, Teresa. Thank you so much for that,
You're
right?
welcome.
Because somebody can now literally take their life, and go from the place of like, and not having certainty to now they have a foolproof plan
Right,
to do this, correct?
right. And it's not
Yeah.
that complicated.
No, it's so simple. Like, and they say simple is profitable. So
I
this is
agree. I'm
where,
all about simple, Ash. I
yeah,
do not like complexity. There's no need for it. I think sometimes people try to make things more complicated just so they feel smarter. I
yep,
like to keep things as simple. Simple is as simple does. It's
yeah.
really
I know a guy who does podcasting, has 1.5 million followers, and he just keeps it simple. Like he told
yeah,
me when he came on my podcast, he's like, Ash, I just keep it simple. That's it. Nothing
yeah,
more, nothing less, right? So
right.
I think that becomes a very big piece of the puzzle, because sometimes, like, if we complicate things too much, or we overthink it, or we overdo it, or what have you, right? We're trying to make it like this unique thing, but what people understand and what people already do is what you need to do anyways. So it make it simple.
Exactly.
What works is simplicity, basically.
Because you'll do it. If it's
Yeah,
simple, you will actually do the task. If it's complicated, you're just going to get frustrated and nothing will change.
I 100% agree with you there. Right. So I want to say thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate this, because the conversation we are having is such a like, I can go on for hours about this, money topics, right? When it comes to credit card debt, right? What should they do if they have a lot of credit card debt? Are there places that they can go to pay that off?
It really depends on the number, like how much they have. Um, and the big question is, why do you have credit card debt? One
Right.
thing that I used to see a lot of, this is probably going back maybe more than 10 years ago, is that you'd see people advising people to like remortgage their house to pay off the
Right.
credit card debt. Now, I can understand that if the reason for the debt was because you had some sort of tragic emergency, like somebody got really sick and you had to stop working, something that's hopefully never going to happen again. But if the reason you have credit card debt is because you have poor spending habits, when you refinance your home, you take out a chunk of money, take out equity, and you pay off your debt, you get that sigh of relief, right? You didn't learn anything. You're going to, three,
Mm,
4 months from now, you're going to be right back where you started from. And now you're not going to be able to refinance because you've used up your equity.
yeah, because energetically, like, you are just trained that it's okay to just rack up the credit card debt, or it's okay to not have money, right?
Right. So that's the thing you really have to look at first is, why do I have the debt? If I have the debt because I have poor habits, the poor habits need to be fixed.
Mm.
That needs to be worked on.
Yeah, and I
And
think that internally, from what I'm hearing from you, is that like people also have this thing about when they are spending money, it's all about importance, right? So again, it's about third chakra, and basically, like, what's happening is that they feel like they're not good enough, right? And because they feel internally they're not good enough, they try to show it from external things by spending more money, or it's almost like throwing a tantrum, or even like
It
like a
can be,
little
but it
child.
really it varies. I wouldn't say it's always for importance. I think that it's worthiness is definitely a piece of it. You know, it
Yeah,
makes you feel I deserve that mink coat. I deserve that new car even though I can't
right.
afford it. So when you have that mindset of I deserve even though I can't afford it, that is you're right. That is almost like throwing that little tantrum.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
I understand that. But
Yeah, yeah.
for some people, it's really comes down to bad habits,
Oh, I mean, like,
in not understanding that you're spending more than you're earning. They don't understand their cash flow. They don't understand something that basic, and that's a
yeah,
problem.
yeah. That's 100%. It's a huge problem. It's not just a small problem. It's a huge
No, it's a
problem, right?
huge problem.
Huge problem. Yeah. Most people don't realize that simple things can make a big difference, and
Right.
more importantly, like letting go of some things can really help you. Like for me, Teresa, is like when we came here from India with 20 bucks and no English. I mean, like I was working like
Mhm.
from Monday through Friday. I would go to school. I'll come home from school around 3 o'clock, and then I would work from about 4 o'clock until 12 o'clock at night, Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, I went to work at 4 o'clock, and I didn't get home until Saturday late morning. You know,
Mhm.
then I went home, went to sleep a little bit, went back to work, worked another 24-hour shift.
Mhm.
So when it comes to like conservation, that was such an important time for us to
Sure.
conserve. But that conservation, people look at it as a bad thing, I think. And the hard part of that is when people look at it as a bad thing, essentially it's not a bad thing, right? It's
Right.
actually,
It's
you know,
it's being responsible.
yeah. Well, it's actually society has fed you that conservative, being saver is a bad thing. That's what
Mhm.
society wants you to do, because there is there's this agenda
Yeah.
by the banks, by the credit card companies, by the even the government. They
Yep.
created credit cards so that they can track all your money. Number one, but more importantly, they created credit cards to you know give you the sense that you're wealthy and you have all this other available money. But they
Right.
did that because banks knew that when people spend money, they're not going to be able to. So the interest rate was going to be racked up, so it
Yep.
was a bank's way of getting a return, high return on their money.
Right.
Basically,
Right.
they might be so essentially like it is a like it's a I mean in a way it's a highway robbery. Like in sense, right? It's great for the banks and credit card companies and government. It's just not good for you, like
Right.
essentially.
Right. So if you want to beat them at their own game, don't use credit cards.
Yeah, or use them wisely. Like
No, use them
like
wisely. Exactly.
yeah,
Pay off.
and
Yeah.
and I think that a lot of people go into uh so that comes because that taps into your second chakra, like a really creativity. So they
Mhm.
tapped into your creativity so well that letting you know that, oh my god, look at all the things you can do, and it's very expansionary. They really like touch your heartstrings and say,
Right.
look at all the things you can do, and look at the family you can take care of your family, and look at all these things. And that's when we went from one income household to two income household.
Yep.
And now that's not enough. You
Right.
almost need, both spouses need almost two jobs, right, to
Yeah.
really make it work. And it's not because the things have changed that much. What it is you changed your, what you need, right,
Right.
what you
Right.
want.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So with that being said, I love this conversation because so then, for banks, this was an investment, basically. Am I right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
For the banks, that's an investment. Like they think of it as, okay, people get credit cards, they get in debt, we charge them revolving interest, we make XYZ return, we are
That's
happy.
true. Yep. Yep. Very true.
So when it comes to the individuals, though, what can they do on the other side? Such as, maybe there are some funds, or maybe, so obviously we cannot give financial advice, but what are some of the things they can do in terms of generality?
Well, I think again, the most important thing they need to do is understand their cash flow. It starts there. And as
Ah,
far as where they put the money, that's a very personal decision. That's why I'm keeping it very general, that if they're just looking to build savings, put it in, look for the highest interest rate you can find in a bank or, credit union or whatever you want to use. But as far as where they invest their money, that's, very, very personal. And, I wouldn't really want to go down that path.
mm,
I
I
don't
love
have any investments that I would recommend.
Right, right. Okay, okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. And because the number one thing is they need to get stabilized.
Exactly. They need to get stabilized. And the first place to start that is understanding your cash flow. And if you're really struggling and you're confused about it, get help. Ask, somebody to help you. Even if you have to pay them, it's an investment in you. And usually what I've seen is when people do pay for the advice, they take it more seriously.
100%. 100%. What I found is that even in business, like sometimes people will try to like say they'll penny, because as a consultant, as a holistic business consultant, I offer a lot of things, but sometimes people just want it for free. They're like, oh, I've been doing these things, and I've been spending money, and I've been investing in my business, and I've been investing more in my business, and now I'm at a point where I can't spend any more money.
Hmm.
And finally, they're at a space where, with financial chakras, my mission is to help people get to $1 million wealth or build $1 million business, right?
Hmm.
And the finally, and I'm 100% committed to the people I serve. And so they finally land at a space where somebody's going to be helping them every day.
Yep.
Somebody's going to be doing manifestation with them every day. Somebody's going to give them breakthroughs, inner breakthroughs and all that on a monthly basis. And they finally land, and then they go, well, I don't want to spend any money, or I don't want to invest any money. And then, they come back to me 6 months later and they go, I didn't go anywhere. I'm like, of course you didn't, because you're not listening, right?
Right.
Because there's a perfect opportunity for you to make more money. So I think that those of you listening, you want to understand that if you need to invest in something a little bit, go ahead and do it, because the return on investment is so huge, so huge.
It
Yes,
can be.
you will
Yep.
make mistakes, and yes, you will learn lessons, but
Hmm.
the return on investment, it will far outweigh the debts you have to pay them off. Because
Right.
the best way, like if it's simple thing is, if you are getting charged, let's say 10%, 20% on a credit card debt, and the debt amount is, let's say, $20,000, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa, right? twenty
Hmm.
thousand dollars, and you create another source of income. If your source of income is not enough, first of all, see how much you can condense, cut down on expenses.
Right.
Second, increase your income somehow,
Yep.
right? Figure it
Hmm.
out. Like when I was working at a gas station, Teresa, I was working when I was new, right? My first year in the country, I made a deal with my boss. I was at a gas station every Sunday. The bay would be empty. There'll be no
Yep.
mechanics, and people would come there to do tire changes, like the patch of the tires,
Yep.
or tire balancing, or they
Hmm.
would get it all changed. Like simple stuff, right? And I saw that as a need, and I said, okay, can I make a deal with you? Like, can I do this for you on Sundays? We're slow anyways, and we have two people here. There's
Yep.
nothing else to do. Can I do this for you in the back,
Hmm.
so that, and then can we split the profit, right? So whatever you need to do it, and make
Right.
some extra money so you can go ahead and take care of the debt, right? Because
Yep.
if you are making more by investing in yourself, right, you might be paying 20% on one side, but it's okay, because maybe it's for a month or two. Figure out a way to make that money and just pay that thing off. I mean, I think it's
Yep.
a much faster way than trying to say, oh my god, like it's just so much, and oh my god, like there's interest, and oh my god, like the world is ending. The world is not ending, it's just debt. That's it. Like it's nothing more, nothing less. It's just debt. It's money
Hmm.
that you did not have, you spent, and you just have to pay it back. That's it. There's nothing, no emotional attachment to that. What do you say to that?
Well, I think if it's for an investment reason like that, you really have to again weigh out why you're getting yourself into the debt. So if it is something that you giving yourself an opportunity to learn how to learn a skill so that you can make more money, then that may make sense. But if it's just willy-nilly spending, that has to be reined in.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is, if it's really really spending, be sure to just buckle down and just like make sure that you're trying to like get to the bottom of that issue,
Right.
and
Right.
fix the problem. So yeah,
Exactly.
my friend, this is such a great conversation. I can go on for hours for this, right? We can go into all kinds of directions, but I want to say thank you so much for coming today. I
Oh, you're
really
welcome.
appreciate you.
My
Okay.
pleasure.
Yeah, and those of you who are listening, I want to let you know, guys, this is a very dear topic to me. I can be on this for hours and days, but the basic bottom line is, all right, guys, basic bottom line is take care of yourself, take care of your money, and make sure you are wealthy. Okay, you have the chance to become wealthy. There is no doubt that you cannot be wealthy. It is my wish to the universe that may it make you health, wealth, and happiness. May it give you all the health, wealth, and happiness that you deserve. And I want to say thank you so so much. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
coming to Financial Chakras podcast, Abundance Through Alignment. Please visit my website, financialchakras.com. You'll find a copy of this particular podcast. And of course, you'll find it on Apple Podcast and Spotify and so forth, right? So please visit financialchakras.com for more information. And I'll put all the things in the show notes about Teresa as well. So, Teresa, what website they can visit for
They
you?
can visit my website, wealthcoachforwomen.com. And I've also in the show notes, Ash, I have dropped a gift for your listeners, as well as a contact form. So if they have questions about my service and if I can be of service to them, I do offer a free 30-minute clarity call. And they can ask me anything that they want. I will give them direct, straight, simple answers. If there's something I can do to help them, I will explain what that would look like. If I can't, I'll either refer them to somebody who might be more aligned, and at the end we'll just end as friend, and everybody goes on their way. So no pressure. It's really to be of service and to help them get from wherever they are to where they want to be.
I love that. Thank you so much, Teresa, for that. I really appreciate you. And those of you are listening, I really appreciate you. Thank you for putting up with me today because I do still have a cold. I'm almost done with this. But, with that in mind, I want to say thank you so much for listening. Appreciate you. Love you guys very, very much. Mwah. And I'll see you until next time. Be sure to like, comment, and share this podcast with the people you know and people you love. My name is Ash Shukla, and thank you for attending Financial Chakras Abundance Through Alignment podcast. Thank you. Namaste.